doing? Good morning, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. How's everyone doing? This is the last week of October. Um, okay, no, next week is the last week. Comment, say hi, let me know where you're tuning in from. If this is your first time tuning in, definitely comment, let me know where you're tuning in from. If this is not your first time tuning in, still comment and let me know where you're tuning in from. Good morning, Dream Queen of Hearts. Jeffrey Ventura, good morning. Blake Gonzalez says, what made you become a lawyer? Funny and true story. I actually became, I believe, well, first of all, the reason why I believe that it's really important that when your children are young, you expose them to different professions, that it helps them start to develop an interest or a liking to different professions. And I remember when I was in fifth grade, so I was about 10 years old, and I grew up in Nigeria, like that's where I spent my formative years. And we did a play called Trials of Brother Jero. If you're Nigerian or you went to school in Nigeria, you might know that book or whatever it is. But basically, we did a play, where I was a lawyer. And I represented one of the parties on there, but I enjoyed it so much that I found myself gravitating towards things where I had to make persuasive arguments. Like, so, as part of the debate team, like I was always excited about, doing debate, and so by the time I got to high school, they kind of separated our classes based on interests, and I knew that I wanted to, at that point, it was very clear that, I would do well as a lawyer. And so, when I finished high school, I came to the United States, and I got my bachelor's in you know, politics, philosophy, and law, basically pre-law. And I went straight into law school. So I never took a break or deviated because it's always been my passion. I'm a person, personality wise, who loves to root for the underdog, whether in my personal life or whether I'm watching a reality TV. And so it was fitting that I ended up in a profession where I could be a, advocate for other people who couldn't really advocate for themselves. And, people often ask me, if you weren't a lawyer, what would you be? And, I always say, if I wasn't a lawyer, I would be a therapist. As many of my clients will tell you, like, I'm kind of like, um, a therapist to them, because that's kind of what you do as a lawyer, a counselor. You end up having to talk people off the ledge and just trying to, listen and give advice. So yeah, that's why I became a lawyer. Good question. Um, Good morning, Early Jojo. Good morning, Carrie Kerr. Good morning, AG Braids. Good morning, Katie Rich Life. Keeper from Houston. What's up? Soul says, morning from Antigua. I would love to be in Antigua this morning as well. Good morning from Baltimore. Samuel, Springfield, Massachusetts. Queen of Hearts, good morning. I have a question. It inevitably says, I have a question. After you submitted your docs after marriage, how long will the work permit take? Work permit can range, for some people, like right now, the timeline is so weird that you can even get your green card before your work permit for some people. But a normal timeline would be anywhere from like 4 to 9 months. You can fall anywhere in that window to get your work permit and your travel permit. And, if you guys haven't heard yet, they're giving 5-year work permits. So we've started last week, all the 5-year work permits started trickling in, and that's exciting. And the reason why the 5-year work permits are exciting is because it reduces backlog, not only for immigration, but for us as attorneys and for clients, from having to file renewals constantly, because most cases, outside of, let's say, maybe like asylum or U visas, a decision is going to be made for most cases within 5 years. So at least you don't have to keep applying for renewal of work permits. Just that one work permit should be enough while you're waiting on a decision on your case. Good morning, Dwight from Florida and Carrie Kerr from Queens, New York. I used to live in Queens, New York. Good morning, Miss God Bless from Barbados, Sexy Scorpio, Baltimore, Blake, New York City. Ever Bless says, if you I'm not sure I understand your question. If you I-75 is pending, can your spouse sign an affidavit for someone else? I don't understand. Maybe you have the wrong form. I'm not sure. I understand. DM Accessories from Atlanta. Thank you so much. Ayade says, hello, Lawyer Chai. My name is actually Ayesha, not Chai, but good morning. And then Janelle says, after biometrics, how long does it take to receive interview under VAWA? So what biometrics are you talking about? So when you submit a VAWA application, the actual VAWA application is approved with or denied without an interview. Okay. And then after that's denied or approved, well, let's focus on it being approved. Let's say it's approved. You could be asked to do another biometrics depending on the timeline so that they can get a refreshed biometrics. And if they do ask you to do that, they may or they may not schedule you for an interview. But generally, between approval of VAWA and VAWA interview or VAWA interview bypass, we generally see somewhere around 6 months. I mean, sometimes it may be a little more or less, but after the 6-month mark, we can always start to look and see, well, have you guys forgotten about us? Let's make sure our file is in the right place. You know, especially you see more of the delay, more for clients who are abeyance clients. And abeyance clients are those who basically they had an I-485 pending and then something happened with them and their spouse and then they converted it to a VAWA application. For those ones, you know, you kind of might see more of a delay because of files being moved. Okay. Ayode says, I have a question. Just go right ahead and type your question. Is there anything that I can do if I was used to enter the United States by my ex-husband? Jeffrey, I am so sorry to hear about that. I'm assuming you're a U.S. citizen. So we don't prosecute cases where people use their U.S. citizen spouse. It's terrible that that's happening, but you can check on USCI's website and see what options that you have on there. Okay. How many months does someone need to take? Does it take to get the green card? Like I said, timeline can vary and application can vary. You know, there are many ways in which people get green cards. So the question will need to be narrowed down based on what kind of green card are you applying for. Then I would be able to tell you. Hello, when exactly do we receive a VAWA receipt after filing? Honestly, it's just taken a much longer time than it used to. It used to take like 6 weeks before, but now we're seeing like 2 months to 3 months for the receipts. You know, they opened a new field office where they could process more receipts, but it's still not as quick as it's not taken as quickly as possible. So it's not a shock if it takes you like 3 to 4 months to get your receipt, because that's literally what we're seeing right now. I received 3 prima facie. I filed my VAWA in 2021. When do you think my VAWA will be approved? VAWA takes 2 years to 2.5 years. So you're approaching the 2-year mark. So it's possible that it could be any day from now. So hopefully, you know, you get your approval very soon. Barnett's a Jamaican living in Jersey. Hey, what up? What up? If your I-130 has been pending for over 2 years, but I have a travel doc, can I travel out of the country or should I wait for the I-130 to be approved? I cannot answer that without knowing what's going on with your I-485, what stage you are, have you had an interview, and all of those things, because you don't want a decision to be made while you're out of the country. Jojo, good morning from Manhattan. Pink Patel says, good morning. My husband is a citizen and filed for me and never had a passport, and he lost his state ID, and my interview is next. What documents do we provide if in USCIS? Well, does he have a birth certificate? If he's a US citizen and he doesn't have a passport, does he have his birth certificate? If he has his birth certificate, then let him take that. But I have to tell you, I find that a little bit suspicious. And I'm just saying that from experience. And I'm not saying that, your husband did that intentionally. But I found in my years of practice that people that mysteriously lose their ID or passport or basically any form to identify themselves, typically right before an interview, do that with intention to sabotage their spouse. And I'm absolutely not saying that's the case in yours, but we generally see that. So if your husband is willing, you can go get an ID right away. Right away. You can go straight to DMV once you get off this live and go get an ID if he's not trying to sabotage your relationship. Okay? Good morning from Texas, DFW. How can I get a hold of you via call or email? I'm from South Africa, but currently in Florida. Yes, you can call 407-995-6567. You can also send a WhatsApp to 404-333-8751, I think. Yeah. You can also check, once I get off this live, you can also check our profile to make sure that I gave you the right numbers. Yes. Luna says, are you able to expedite VAWA? You're able to request for an expedite of the VAWA, as long as you can provide evidence of it. And what will happen is if USCIS approves the expedite, and the expedite approval doesn't mean an approval of your VAWA. It just means that they will try to review it. The expedites we've seen where they've approved it, I would say that they usually will review within 3 months, either request additional evidence or make a decision of some sort. So you can try if you meet the requirements too. Yeah. Hi, attorney. Can I file my naturalization based on marriage, but I don't file my taxes with my hubby due to some reason? Does that affect my ability? We're still married though. Thank you. Jumanji, the answer will depend on if you are being and filing your taxes correctly. So even if you're not filing your taxes with your husband, are you both filing married filing separately? If you are doing that, you should be able to put in your application. Now, if you're submitting a tax application and you're filing head of household, that's going to be a problem. If you're submitting your application and you're filing single, that's going to be a problem. So those are some of the things that they look at, because it's a good moral character issue if you are misrepresenting your marital status on taxes, because depending on the status you select, you can either owe more taxes or taxes are owed to you. And so those are some of the things that, USCIS is looking at, that if we're trying to make you a U.S. citizen, are you going to be a good citizen? Kevin Barrett says, good morning, Madam Counselor. Continue to do such excellent work for your clients. Bless you and your team. Thank you so much, and thanks for stopping by. Okay, Samantha on Facebook says, good morning. Is it bad if a marriage-based green card was sent annoyed, and after responding, it's now over 1 year and 4 months, no response? I honestly can't answer you. I mean, it's definitely discouraging, but I definitely cannot answer in the affirmative or negative what it is. You can follow up to make sure that they received your NOID. It's possible that they could be doing an investigation on the marriage case. So it's really hard to say. Samuel Oti said, is it a good sign if your EAD was renewed while waiting for a decision on your I-485? It's not a sign of anything at all. As long as your I-485 is pending, if you apply for a work permit based on a pending I-485, you're eligible for a renewal. It's not a decision one way or the other. Hi, Shaturi. Chico Yannick said, is it possible to win the green card lottery program if you're already in the U.S. territory? As long as you are within status, because basically there are very few categories of a green card where you can get your green card if you're out of status. So if you're within the U.S. territory, meaning the United States of America, Yeah, and you're applying for the lottery, you need to make sure that otherwise you have not overstayed your time and you've not accrued unlawful presence. Personally, the green card lottery is something that's very near and dear to my heart. While I don't take cases in diversity lottery, my husband is in the United States because of the diversity lottery, and he won the diversity lottery. And funny enough, he never wanted to apply, and he just applied and forgot about it. And he won it. So it definitely, you can, if you're eligible for it, especially if you're not in the United States, meaning your country is one of those that allows it, you can definitely, try a luck. Unfortunately, for those of you here that are Nigerian, Nigeria no longer offers that. It used to, and that's how my husband, who's Nigerian, was able to get it then. If you file your I-751 and it showed that it was delivered at the lockbox, but you haven't received a receipt notice, and your 2-year green card is up in 11 days, what can I do? You can try emailing the lockbox to find out when you get a receipt. I don't know when it says it was delivered to the lockbox, but it's probably on its way. It's probably on its way, since you're tracking it. If after 11 days, you haven't, well, they may not give you they may not give you a stamp, an extension, because you should be getting the 4-year one coming. So maybe email the lockbox and wait and see what happens this week or next week, depending on when it's showed delivered. Because, even though it was delivered, they still need a little bit of time to process it. I'm going through a divorce. My conditional green card expires in March. When can I apply for removal of conditions? You can either apply when you finalize your divorce, since you are, well, not either. That is the only time you can apply, when you finalize your divorce. Whether that's before or after it expires, because if you're getting divorced, it means that you're not doing a joint filing with your spouse. So you have to do it on the basis of requesting a waiver, meaning that you're a waiver of exception, not to include your spouse. So the minute you get divorced, you can then submit it, whether that's before or after your expiration in March. Okay. Sid Silver says, the best in the business. I made it again to another live session to learn. Yes, thanks for tuning in. Keisha says, can a U.S. citizen marry someone and let them sign a prenup? Yeah, sure. Anyone can sign a prenup. Okay, let me take a few more questions, and I have a busy day. My 2-year green card will expire sometime next May 2024. When do I have to put in the paperwork? If you're doing a joint filing, you want to put it in 90 days prior to expiration, anytime from 90 days and up, basically. So between 90 days to the date before expiration, you want to definitely submit it. Nadine from the Boogie Down Bronx, welcome. What about VAWA work permits? How long after biometrics a VAWA work permit's issued? So are you asking me if VAWA work permits based on an approved VAWA, or if you're filing an adjustment of status? If you are talking about an approved VAWA case work permit, as long as you select that in your VAWA application, when your VAWA is approved, you will be getting your VAWA approved work permit. A VAWA approved work permit is different from a pending VAWA and adjustment of status work permit. So they're two different things. It depends on which one you're asking me. Is it possible to relocate while waiting for a green card? As long as you're relocating here within the United States. But if you do relocate here within the United States, it is very important that you update your address with USCIS. If you don't update your address with USCIS, there's a possibility that you'll be, let's say you live in Atlanta, Georgia here, and then you move to Texas, and then they schedule you for an interview in Atlanta, Georgia, that you end up flying to Atlanta, Georgia to go for the interview, and then you get there and they tell you, well, we don't have jurisdiction to review your case because you no longer live here. You live in Georgia, so we're going to send your file to Texas, which can then take a long time. So yeah, you can relocate, but make sure you update your address. Okay, I'm going to answer one more question. My friend filed for VAWA in February of 2021. She's received 4 or 5 prima facies and work authorization. She shouldn't have received that many, but and work authorization. Do you have any idea if she'll get a response for VAWA? God bless you, ma'am. Hopefully she should get one soon. She can do an inquiry now just to see. Since it's been more than 2.5 years, she can definitely do an inquiry to see. What I wonder is if somewhere in the middle of this processing, she either got a request for additional evidence, because that sometimes can just push the case back, but she can definitely do one or see if she's eligible for an expedite decision. All right, guys, I got to jump off. I hope you all have an amazing day, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.